Welcome back, my Jedi friends, and in today's video, we're going to explore good communication. Good communication. Are you a good communicator? And this is to really bolt on from the last video I did on communication and some of the comments that I had. Let's have a deeper dive into this. So what I discussed for those that didn't watch the last video is what I believe good communication is, the two big mistakes that people make, and how to discover your friends who are on the spectrum that maybe didn't even realize that they were on the spectrum, and the way that the mind works when we communicate. So let's start with the stats. Uh, the only research study that I could find on do people prefer a good speaker versus a good listener? And it will probably be very little surprise to find that it was 81% of people attending events said that they prefer to spend time with a good listener than a good speaker. It's easy to be a good speaker. It's remarkable how many people aren't good speakers but speak anyway. Now, they're the massive violators of this. People that just talk shit. There's no value to it. There's no structure to it. There's no point to it. They just do it. So let me start on this journey. I believe that a lot of the challenges I had in earlier life made me a good communicator. They made me a good listener. Now, most people are not good listeners, and some people are on the spectrum that can't listen. They have no capacity to listen. And there's nothing better with your friends than to know that there's somebody that will listen to you fully. And how do you know someone's listening to you fully? When you finish speaking, they haven't interrupted you. And maybe there's even a little pause while they think about, they let land what you've just told them. So a few things came up, and based on what I said in my last video, that there's two things that really irritate me. One, people that interrupt you before you make your point. But the caveat with that is that people that talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and they make their point, and they make it again, and they make it the third time, and they treat you like you're a fucking idiot by over explaining and treating you like an idiot, really. So for those people, there is a time and a place to interrupt them. So I sort of contradicted my own points. Now, people stepped in and they said, "Oh yes, finding good listeners is a rare thing," and it's true, folks. Not many people are good listeners. I became a good listener, I believe, because when I went first into nursing and I was on the wards, I felt like a complete fraud. And the only way that I could look as though I wasn't just an idiot lost in the middle of the ward was to sit down and talk to patients. And a lot of that was listening to what they had to say. I learned a lot through that experience, folks. And I also learned that a lot of people will start their own healing journey if they're given a platform to talk and to be listened to without judgment. Now, we talked about communication dynamics, and some people just won't shut the fuck up, folks. They won't shut the fuck up. When in actual fact, the best people, your best friends, they're probably good listeners. They probably give a shit. They're probably empathic. They probably let you finish what you're saying. And yet, so many people will interrupt. And I hear one of the comments was, but something pops in my head and I feel I need to say it now or it might get lost. So here's the reality with that, folks. If something pops into your head and you might forget what it was before the person's finished the sentence, then it's not that fucking important, is it? Especially not important enough to interrupt somebody in mid-flow when you haven't got their point and demonstrate clearly that you're not listening to what they're saying at all. Or here's the worst thing when you interrupt someone, what you're saying energetically. Let's talk about the energetics of it. And you'll know this if you're on the receiving end. When someone's making a point to you and you interrupt them, now the caveat is that you haven't given them long enough to make their point. Some people will talk as long as you let them. So there's an exception to every rule, folks. There's a caveat to this. But when you're interrupting someone, what you're effectively saying is that what I have to say is way more important than what you've got to say. Now, I do have people in my role as a consultant. I ask them what they do. I ask them how their platform works. Now, if somebody takes more than a couple of minutes and they're still talking, then that tells me they are just lost. Some people will just run. They will just run down the beach for as long as you give them time, and it's not relevant. They're not answering the question. They're certainly not giving you anything usable. So there's a time and a place for both of these sides of the spectrum here, folks. But generally, shutting the fuck up, especially if you're with a friend here, if this isn't a business arrangement, then it's a good thing. Now, if you're a lawyer, then it pays to shut the fuck up because you're getting paid by the hour for people to just vent. So you're part of counselor there anyway. And if some people are paying you there, then you learn the value of shutting your mouth really, really quickly. But in general dynamics, folks, some people will just talk indefinitely and bore people. And the thing is, it's like filling up a cup. If you talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, people only have a certain capacity to listen. And then it's overflowing. Then you're just wasting time, energy, and resource by talking more. And some people get off at loving the sound of their own voices. They're poor communicators. But you have to be honest with yourself about this, folks, that people like good listeners. But the other side of that coin is nobody likes someone that just talks and talks and talks and talks and talks and talks. It's fucking boring to listen to. And not only that, you're probably making the same point over and over again. I've noticed with the people that talk and talk and talk and talk, they end up repeating exactly the same stuff, sometimes in the same dialogue, uninterrupted dialogue. And that could be that they've spent a whole day on the receiving end. They just need to get stuff off their chest. So it may be in your best interest just to let people get stuff off their chest, especially if it's your partner or a loved one, someone you're close to, a good friend. You might make exceptions to it. You know that they're not normally like this. You know that they've got to get some stuff off their chest. You know that they have to vent a little bit. But generally, being a good listener has no substitute, folks. It has no substitute. People prefer to spend time with good listeners rather than good speakers. And you can be as good a speaker as you want, but everyone will get bored eventually. Everyone will get bored eventually. And if you're not a good storyteller, then no one's probably going to be that interested in you going on and on and on anyway. If you are a good storyteller, that's a different kettle of fish, but there's still a limit. There's still a limit, my Jedi friends. So here's to the people that can shut the fuck up for an extended length of time, because that is a gift. And some people think that being a good listener is easy. It really isn't, folks. It takes a lot of energy to spend focused attention listening to somebody talk. Focused energy. It's not a cop out. It's not easy. And if it was easy and you think it's easy, then try doing it. Try doing it. The odds are if you think listening is easy, then you're a shit listener because you've never done it properly. You've never done listening properly. It takes a lot of energy out of you if you don't know how to set your energy to listen to someone that just keeps talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. So there you go, my Jedi friends, just to bring your attention to this energy dynamic of the interrupting and the good listening and the talking and making your point. And the bottom line is that there's exceptions either side of this. But if you're making a point, do it quickly. And if you're listening, do it completely. And if somebody's taking too long to get to the point, then that's where the shades of grey on this communication dynamic come in. But only you can decide with that. But be a good listener because you never know when good listening skills will get you. And not only that, people will tell you more. If you don't interrupt, if you don't talk and you just hold space, holding space is where it's at, folks. Being interested, being present. And you're definitely not present if stuff's popping in your head and you're thinking, I've got to say it now or I might forget it. If you do forget it, fucking great. It's seriously not that important, folks. So you have to decide who you want to show up as. And not only that, if you're an empath, you'll realize when they get to the end of their point that something just as relevant will pop up, if not more so relevant, that should probably get priority on that conversation. On that conversation. So, on that enlightening note, on that bombshell, folks, on that explosion of communication, I shall leave it with you to do with this video and this information what you will. And if you're still listening, folks, well done. Well done. If you've made it to the end of the video, you're listening and you've listened to my little ramble. And if anyone talks for the length of this video and doesn't give you a chance to talk, then it's probably time to call it quits on that conversation, folks. There you go. There's the irony of this video. So you will be a better communicator, my Jedi friends. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I seriously suggest you do so, because there's going to be all sorts of little gems that I release every now and again. You could do that there. Show it a bit of love. And there's another video there, should you wish for more of the same.